folks. This is Bob with news, with views. It's in bits and pieces of news which I think are interesting and something that we should be looking at. There's a news item by Reuters published, says WHO says would be highly speculative to say COVID-19 did not emerge in China. So this is something Mike Ryan, WHO top emergency expert, says. China is pushing a narrative via state media that the virus existed abroad before it was discovered in the central city of Wuhan. Folks, let's not fall for this. Hopefully, the chair is with us, with Dr. Harshvardhan, and it's time we nail China for what it's done and the destruction it's done, right? It's kind of the changing Biden administration is going to get Kim all hot under the collar. And what is it? Or what do we have here? With Bloomberg says Kim Jong-un is likely to let his missiles do the talking with Biden. TAI is now poised to revert to the frostier days of the Obama administration. Not only that, I've learned that the economic linkage between North Korea and China seems to be under some kind of stress, folks. But people who continue to prop up RCEP for whatever reasons should take note of RCEP really does not give you a pass on the geostrategic bullying that China does, folks. Okay, so look at what we have here. Australia PM slams Chinese official's repugnant tweet. What they had done was, Chinese official tweeted fake image of an Oz soldier holding a knife to an Afghan child's throat. Right? Demanded an apology. China refuses to say sorry for Oz tweets. That's how they treat their RCEP partners, folks. Just for all those guys who are crawling out of the woodwork wanting us to join the RCEP. Sometimes these trade deals have to also take into account geostrategic imperatives. We can't put our feet on both sides, right? So what we have, the UK says China stokes trade war with Australia in retribution for political stances. Now, that's kind of interference that India does not want, will not stand for, right? What does it say? China-Australia quarrel is a worry for the world. The West should coordinate response to pressure from Beijing, to put pressure. This is an immediate requirement. Where it's at least the Commonwealth countries must come together. And it's about time France and Germany joined the bandwagon. You get Canada, Australia. You got to get now with Biden. You got to get the United States back into picture. Now, what do you have? Important for India, right? Taiwan looks to boost ties with India. Baoshuan Ge de facto ambassador. Convergence on new security threats such as disregard for shared norms and values by other nations, the COVID-19 can add momentum to efforts to upgrade cooperation between India and Taiwan. Taipei's de facto ambassador Baoshuan Ge said on Monday to the first interview. And that's important, folks. Yesterday I put out on my post that, Biden will find it very difficult to take the pressure off Taiwan. Biden is going to have to carry on the same route as Trump set for Taiwan, with increasing help and support in terms of defense equipment. India needs to absolutely, at the bare minimum, do a trade deal with them, folks, because they are our best partners today. What does Narendra Modi Bhai have to say? India giving befitting reply to expansionist forces. PM again obviously doesn't name China, but you know what this is all about. But at this time when this news is coming out about just Doklam, where we apparently had made a stand for our buddies in Bhutan and made sure that China vacated, apparently they've gone and built a village just there. Have we been caught napping again? There's an article in the New York Times that suggests the same what the China did in South China Sea is happening in Himalayas. It's happened in Nepal. It's happened in Bhutan. India has to come to the aid of Bhutan at this point in time. That's absolutely right. Now, here's a good stance we take. India denies support to China's Belt and Road project at the SCO meet. Almost everybody's jumping into it, folks. However, we continue to stand tall, and our stand is right. The BRI is absolutely nothing but diplomacy, it's debt diplomacy, and it is just the old East India Company. You can call it the East China Company for all I care, but that's what it is. And at the SCO, India condemns terrorism in all manifestations, Naidu says. But hey, you got to connect the China dots, man. This is not going away. What do we have here? UK's landmark move on cars. The time is now to head off climate catastrophe, usher in a green industrial revolution. This is what Alok Sharma says, who is the UK Secretary of State for Business Energy. He says, we look forward to strengthening the partnership between our two countries to tackle climate change in other areas too. From mobilizing the flow of green finance through the new UK-India Sustainable Finance Forum, to partnering on the Coalition for Disaster Resilient Infrastructure to secure a climate resilient future for all. I think it's time for India to take a brave step and take leadership or co-leadership of the Commonwealth. In fact, the Commonwealth headquarters, I think, deserves to be in India. But for that, obviously, we got to improve our internal democratic process, as they say, to be able to convince enough people that we are worthy of that position. Balls in the court of our Prime Minister for sure. But here I am. UK bans installation of Huawei 5G gear from September 21st. Crackdown follows US push for allies to exclude Huawei on security ground. Fast and furious. Huawei and the tech sector is going to get shut down. All this that you continue to hear about the greatness of China, half of it is just self-proclamations. The other half of it is of all these compromised expats who live in China, who continue to sing the Communist Party's tune. But hey, what else can they do, folks? More after the break. Folks, now on a geostrategic imperative, where how do we do what China is doing to us by one, encircling China itself, which we've started doing obviously, but also trying to break through their chain that they thought they had created in the outer periphery. And here, these countries become critical, right, as you go. Afghanistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, and down here. Right? These countries are critical for India now, right? We have cultural relationship. Obviously, the Mughal Empire started from Uzbekistan. A lot of cultural linkages. Obviously, Bollywood is famous in this area, including people like Raj Kapoor. More importantly, these countries now are running into a huge problem because of Xinjiang and the treatment of their brethren by China in Xinjiang. How they're holding fort so far is anybody's guess. But that rupture is eventually going to happen. I don't think the people who are in power in these countries are really going to be able to control the cultural connect between this area and Xinjiang for very much longer. India needs to be in play here by full force. I think it does have a base in Kazakhstan or Uzbekistan. But India now needs to be going in terms full investment, have full air linkages with these countries. Air bubbles with Kazakhstan, with Uzbek, with Tashkent, with Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and with Dushanbe, right? And we really need to get a very active intelligence community in there, very active military intelligence community in there. And most importantly, just remember what we've done in Kashmir by making it a union territory, right? Just remember the real land linkage for India is actually here. And it goes through Gilgit and Baltistan and through Kargil. That is the sweetest spot of real estate for India. And it should be absolutely our endeavor to get that part back and not just leave it there for China and Pakistan to play with. Now, this part of the world it gets very little attention, but India really needs to now focus on this, because this unraveling of the periphery of China will eventually, historically, start its downfall. And here, some of the stuff that India has done, very exciting. He says, India extends 1 billion credit line for priority projects. India on Wednesday, this was a couple of weeks back, extended a 1 billion line of credit to Central Asia. Then you had same article going, India's Central Asia dialogue seeks raising of terror heavens, Delhi to open additional 1 billion line. And more of what is happening is in Afghanistan. India is now beginning to make a play to ensure that China doesn't get control of Afghanistan. And here is a really interesting article. India's plan to build dam to aid Afghanistan likely to unnerve Pakistan. Pakistan is fed by the Indus River and by the Kabul River, right? The attempt to dam Kabul River has been hanging fire for a long time, and I'm glad India has taken the leap of faith, as this says. The government announced on Tuesday that it would build the Shah Tooth Dam on Kabul River in Afghanistan, which will bring relief to residents of Kabul, but greatly unnerve neighbors Pakistan, which is likely to protest vehemently. I am happy to learn of India's commitment on constructing the Shah Tooth Dam on Kabul River. It is essential for drinking water supplies to Kabul, which is staring at serious water shortage, is what they are saying, right? And I think personally, with this Biden administration coming in, I think this attempt to exterminate and take all the troops out of the United States, I think is going to take a kind of a slowdown, as I said, because look at what's happening. Suicide bombing at Kabul Education Center kills 18. IS claims responsibility. This is what's going to probably come into play as far as the Biden's liberal credentials are concerned, where it says, was Khalil Ahmed writes, retreat of freedom, the women of Afghanistan stand to lose the most if Taliban return to power. India needs to play this up further to ensure that the United States doesn't do what it should be. What do you have here? US bases in Afghanistan shuts bases in Afghanistan during drawdown. And I think this is a kind of, I can't understand Trump, right? I don't think this should be happening, but I hope he leaves enough bases in there so that Biden can rebuild a little bit, right? And while that's happening, look at what Canada is doing, right? And which is important. Canada pledges $270 million in aid for Afghanistan. The funding Canada pledged will go towards Afghanistan Reconstruction Trust Fund and support projects in such areas as health and education, women's empowerment, human rights and security. India must, with the kind of footprint we have and the kind of goodwill we have in Afghanistan, India should be tying up with countries like Canada to ensure that we can have a joint effort and it can act as a force multiplier. Afghans obviously in a quandary on eve of US elections. This was a note that G. Partha wrote. However, they can probably kind of now rest a little bit, because now I can see Ghani is beginning to now slow down the talks, because he knows the Biden administration is coming in and there may be a change in US's stance of moving troops out of Afghanistan, folks. Great, this area is critical for India. We need to be up players there. We need to put in more money, more effort, because this will probably lead to unraveling of the Chinese periphery from the top, and that's always been the source of their downfall. Jai Hind.